The auctioneer's hammer fell, and the crowd laughed. 3 credits. That was my worth in the eyes of the Galactic Consortium. Less than the price of a synthetic meal cube, less than the docking fee for a cargo shuttle, less than nothing. I stood on the illuminated platform, wrists bound by energy shackles that hummed against my skin, wearing the tattered remains of what had once been an Earth Defense Force uniform. The insignia had been torn off weeks ago, somewhere between my capture and this moment. Around me, thousands of beings filled the vast amphitheater of the Vexari slave market. Creatures of every shape, color, and biology imaginable, all united in their amusement at the pathetic human on display. 3 credits, the auctioneer repeated, his serpentine face splitting into what passed for a grin among the Thessian species. A new record, low for sentient merchandise. The human goes to Merchant Krovax for 3 credits. The bloated, slug-like creature in the front row oozed forward, already calculating how to work me to death in his mining operation. I had heard stories about Krovax's asteroids. No one lasted more than a standard month. I didn't struggle. I didn't beg. I simply stood there, meeting the eyes of anyone who dared to look at me directly. Most didn't. I was beneath their notice, a member of a species so new to the galactic stage that we hadn't even been granted observer status in the consortium. Humanity was a footnote, a curiosity, a mistake of evolution that had somehow stumbled into faster-than-light travel. Wait. The single word cut through the amphitheater like a blade through silk. Every voice fell silent. Every head turned. She descended the central staircase with the gravity of a collapsing star. Tall, impossibly elegant, her skin the color of burnished silver, her eyes twin pools of liquid gold. The Valorian imperial crest blazed on her chest, and behind her trailed a retinue of guards in ceremonial armor. I recognized her. Everyone recognized her. Empress Seraphis Val Corinth, ruler of the Valorian Dominion, commander of 12 star systems, and, if the whispered rumors held any truth, the most isolated monarch in the known galaxy. Her bonded partner had died 7 years ago, and she had refused every suitor since. The noble houses called her the Frozen Throne. Her enemies called her worse. Your Radiance, the auctioneer stammered, dropping into a bow so deep his scales scraped the floor. We were not informed of your attendance. If you seek merchandise, we have far superior specimens in the private galleries. I did not ask for your assessment. Her voice carried no emotion, yet somehow contained the weight of absolute authority. I am placing a bid. The amphitheater erupted in murmurs. Merchant Krovax made a wet, gurgling sound of protest. Your Radiance, the auctioneer tried again. This is merely a human, a species of no significance. Surely, 3 billion credits. The silence that followed was absolute. I felt my heart stop, then restart with a painful lurch. The auctioneer's translator device sparked and died, unable to process the number. He switched to manual speech, his voice cracking. I must have misheard. Your Radiance said 3 billion credits. Empress Seraphis climbed the final steps to the platform, stopping mere feet from where I stood. Up close, I could see the fine lines around her golden eyes, the slight tension in her jaw. She was not as composed as she appeared. I trust that outbids the previous offer. The consortium recognizes the bid, the auctioneer managed. Does anyone wish to counter? No one spoke. No one breathed. Then the human is sold to Her Radiance, Empress Seraphis Val Corinth, for 3 billion credits. The hammer fell again, but this time, there was no laughter. I was sold at an alien auction for 3 credits. The Empress paid 3 billion to outbid everyone. The Empress turned to face me, and for a long moment, we simply looked at each other. I saw something in her eyes that I couldn't name, something that had nothing to do with politics or power. What is your name? She asked, her voice soft enough that only I could hear. Marcus, I said. Marcus Cole. Former lieutenant, Earth Defense Force. Service number, Marcus Deese. She tested the word like it was something fragile. You will come with me. It wasn't a question, but it wasn't quite a command either. My shackles deactivated with a soft click, and I rubbed my wrists where the energy had burned them raw. May I ask why? I said, Your Radiance. Her golden eyes flickered with something that might have been surprise. Perhaps she wasn't accustomed to purchased property asking questions. Because I have need of you, Marcus Cole. She turned and began walking toward the exit, clearly expecting me to follow. And because you have nothing left to lose. She was wrong about that. I had already lost everything. My ship, my crew, my world. Earth was gone, reduced to ash by an enemy we never saw coming. I was the last of my kind, as far as I knew. The last human in a galaxy that considered us less than worthless. But as I followed the Empress out of that amphitheater, surrounded by whispers and stares and barely concealed outrage, I realized something else. Sometimes having nothing left to lose was the same as having everything to fight for. The Imperial shuttle was larger than my family's entire apartment block had been back on Earth. I sat in a chamber that the guards called the modest receiving room, surrounded by enough luxury to fund a colony ship, and wondered if I had traded one form of captivity for another. Empress Seraphis had not spoken to me since the auction. She had retreated to her private quarters, leaving me in the care of a Valorian official whose name was Counselor Vareth. He was older than the Empress. His silver skin faded to a pale gray, and he looked at me the way a scientist might look at a particularly unimpressive specimen. "You do not kneel," he observed. "Should I? All beings kneel in the presence of the Imperial Counselor." Vareth circled me slowly, his robes whispering against the polished floor. "It is a sign of respect. Where I come from, respect is earned." Vareth stopped in front of me, his golden eyes narrowing. "Where you come from no longer exists. Your planet is a debris field. Your species is extinct, save for scattered refugees too few to matter. You have no culture, no history, no standing in the consortium. By what measure do you presume to speak of earned respect?" The words hit me like physical blows, but I didn't flinch. I had already mourned. I had already screamed myself hoarse in the holding cells of the slaver's ship, beaten my fists bloody against the walls, and emerged on the other side of grief into something colder and quieter. "By the measure of my own conscience," I said. "It's all I have left." Vareth studied me for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed. A dry, rustling sound like dead leaves. "Perhaps the Empress was right about you," he said. "She often sees things that others miss. It is what makes her dangerous." Before I could ask what he meant, the door behind him slid open, and Seraphis entered. She had changed from her ceremonial robes into something simpler, a flowing garment of deep blue that matched the color of space between stars. Without the armor and the crown, she seemed smaller somehow, more real. "Leave us, Counselor," she said. Vareth bowed low. "Your Radiance. Protocol demands. Protocol can wait. Leave us." He left, but not before casting me a look that promised our conversation was far from over. Seraphis walked to the viewing window, gazing out at the stars that streaked past as the shuttle entered hyperspace. For a long moment she said nothing. "You are wondering why," she finally said. "Yes, you deserve an answer." She turned to face me. "But first I must ask you something. The records say you were a military officer, a pilot. Is this true?" It was true. "Your crew?" I felt the familiar tightness in my chest. Gone. "We were running rescue missions when the attack came. My ship was damaged. By the time I regained consciousness, I was in a Thessian holding cell. They told me the war was over. That Earth had fallen." I paused. "I don't know how I survived. I don't know why I survived." Seraphis nodded slowly. "My partner died 7 years ago. His name was Kalen. We were bonded for 43 years. A short time, by Valorian standards, but we had expected to have centuries together." She looked back at the stars. "He was killed in a border skirmish. A meaningless conflict over a mining world that neither side truly wanted. I held him as he died, and I heard him speak his final words, and then he was gone. I'm sorry. Do not be. Grief is not something that requires apology." She moved away from the window, closer to where I stood. "Since Kalen's death, I've been incomplete. My nobles believe I should take a new partner. They parade suitors before me, each one more politically advantageous than the last. They do not understand that I am not seeking advantage. I am seeking." She stopped, her composure cracking for just a moment. "I do not know what I am seeking. I only know that I have not found it, and you think you'll find it in a human." I couldn't keep the bitterness from my voice. "I was sold for 3 credits. I'm worthless by any standard your galaxy uses." "You are worthless by their standards," Seraphis corrected. "But their standards are not mine." She reached out and, very gently, touched the burn marks on my wrist where the shackles had been. Her fingers were cool and smooth. "I watched you, before the bidding began. I watched how you stood on that platform, surrounded by beings who saw you as less than nothing. You did not cower. You did not beg. You met their eyes as an equal. Pride is all I have left." "No." Her hand remained on my wrist, the touch feather-light. "You have something far more valuable. You have survived. You have endured. And despite everything that has been taken from you, you have not broken." I looked into her golden eyes and saw, for the first time, the loneliness that lived there. The weight of an empire pressing down on shoulders that had been carrying it alone for far too long. "What do you want from me?" I asked. "I do not know yet." She withdrew her hand. "But I would like the chance to find out. Not as your owner, That legal fiction was necessary only to remove you from that place. Here, aboard my ship, you are a guest. You may leave at any station we pass, with enough credits to build a new life. Or you may stay and see what we might become. What we might become. Seraphis smiled, a small, fragile expression that transformed her face entirely. I have found that the most meaningful journeys are the ones whose destination is unknown. I should have asked for the credits. I should have walked away at the first opportunity, found other human survivors, tried to rebuild something from the ashes of my species. Instead, I heard myself say, I'll stay. It was not hope that made me say it. It was not attraction, not yet. It was something simpler and more fundamental, the recognition of one wounded creature by another. She had lost her partner. I had lost my world. Perhaps we could learn to carry our grief together. Seraphis nodded as if she had expected nothing less. Then welcome aboard, Marcus Cole. I suspect you will find the Valorian court far more dangerous than any battlefield you have known. But you will not face it alone. She left me then, and I stood at the window, watching the stars blur past, wondering what I had just agreed to, and whether the frozen throne might not be as cold as everyone believed. 3 months passed aboard the Imperial Citadel, a space station the size of a small moon that served as the mobile capital of the Valorian Dominion. 3 months of formal dinners where I was displayed like an exotic pet. 3 months of whispered insults in languages my translator deliberately failed to process. 3 months of learning the Byzantine rules of a court that had perfected political cruelty over millennia. But also 3 months of late-night conversations in Seraphis's private study, where she taught me Valorian history and I told her stories about Earth. 3 months of her quiet laughter when I mispronounced ceremonial phrases. 3 months of watching her face soften when she thought no one was looking. We had not touched since that first moment on the shuttle. The Valorians had elaborate protocols for courtship, stages of acknowledgement, formal declarations, witness ceremonies. Physical contact before the third declaration was considered scandalous. Seraphis was already causing enough controversy by keeping me at court. She could not afford to give her enemies more ammunition. But sometimes, during our conversations, her hand would rest near mine on the table. Sometimes our eyes would meet across a crowded throne room, and something would pass between us that needed no words. The House of Keth is gathering support, Councillor Vareth reported one evening. We were in the strategic chamber, surrounded by holographic displays showing troop movements and political alignments. Lord Marin has formally challenged your fitness to rule. Seraphis's expression did not change. On what grounds? The usual. Your refusal to take a proper consort. Your attachment to the human. Vareth's golden eyes slid toward me. He claims you have been compromised. That an alien of no standing has somehow influenced your judgment. And what do the other houses say? Most are waiting to see which way the wind blows. The House of Veth supports you, but their support is conditional. Lady Sirith has made it clear that her continued loyalty depends on you distancing yourself from... He paused, clearly unwilling to finish the sentence. For me, I said. Vareth inclined his head. Your presence has become a liability, Marcus Cole. Perhaps it would be wise for you to... No. Seraphis's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. I will not send him away to appease those who see tradition as more important than truth. Your Radiance, with respect. I said no. The silence stretched uncomfortably. Vareth bowed and withdrew, leaving us alone with the holographic stars. You should listen to him, I said quietly. I'm not worth your throne. Seraphis turned to face me, and I saw something in her eyes that I had never seen before. Not from her, not from anyone. It was fear, but not fear for herself. You do not understand what you are worth, she said. For 7 years I have been dying inside this court, surrounded by people who see only my crown, my power, my political value. They bow and scrape and calculate, and none of them, not one, has ever asked me what I feel, what I need, what I dream of in the few hours when I am permitted to sleep. She stepped closer to me, close enough that I could feel the warmth radiating from her silver skin. You asked, she continued. That first night on the shuttle, you looked at me like I was a person, not a symbol. You listened to me speak of Kalen, and you did not offer empty condolences or political advice. You simply heard me. Seraphis, Nobika. She raised her hand, not quite touching my face, her fingers hovering an inch from my cheek. Let me finish. I know what you think of yourself. I know you believe that because your world is gone, you are somehow diminished. But you are wrong. You are the only person in this entire galaxy who sees me clearly, and that makes you more valuable than every crown and every fleet in the Dominion. My throat was tight. The houses will destroy you for this, perhaps. She lowered her hand. But I have made my choice. Tomorrow, I will convene the High Council. I will announce my intention to enter the first declaration with you. The first declaration. But that's the formal acknowledgement of courtship. Yes. She smiled, but there was steel beneath it. Lord Marin will challenge. There will be a trial of objection. And you will have to prove, before the entire court, that you are worthy of standing beside me. How? That is what we must determine tonight. She turned back to the holographic display, her shoulders tight with tension. Because if you fail, Marcus, they will not simply banish you. They will execute you for the crime of reaching above your station. And I will be forced to watch. I stood beside her, looking at the map of an empire that wanted me dead, and I understood finally what she had been carrying alone for so long. Then I won't fail, I said. She looked at me, and for just a moment, the Empress disappeared, leaving only the woman. No, she said softly. I do not believe you will. The trial began at dawn. The High Council chamber was a vast circular space at the heart of the citadel, ringed by floating platforms where the heads of the great houses sat in judgment. At the center, alone, I stood on a pillar of light that held me suspended above a symbolic void, the fate that awaited those who failed the court's tests. Lord Marin was everything I had expected. Tall, broad, his silver skin gleaming with ceremonial oils, his golden eyes burning with contempt. He had demanded the right of traditional challenge, which meant he would design the trial himself. The human claims worthiness to court our Empress, Marin announced, his voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. Let him prove it in the ancient way, through combat. Murmurs rippled through the houses. Combat trials had not been invoked in centuries. I accept, I said before anyone could object. Seraphus's face was pale, but she did not intervene. She could not by law. This was my trial to face. Marin smiled, his teeth sharp and predatory. Then let us begin. The weapons provided were Valorian honor blades, curved, single-edged swords designed for a species with longer arms and different muscle structure than mine. I was at a disadvantage before I even lifted the weapon. But I had spent 3 months in the Citadel's training halls, learning every night when the court believed I was sleeping. I had studied Valorian combat forms, analyzed their weaknesses, and practiced until my human muscles learned to compensate for their limitations. Marin attacked with overwhelming force, clearly expecting to end the fight in seconds. I didn't try to match his strength. Instead, I moved like water around stone, letting his blade pass through spaces where I had been a moment before. Stand and fight, creature, he snarled. I didn't answer. I was watching his footwork, counting his patterns, waiting. There, a momentary overextension, the same flaw I had noticed in the training recordings. I stepped inside his guard, not striking, just positioning. He stumbled, caught off balance, and I could have killed him in that instant. Instead, I stepped back. Yield, I said. The chamber went silent. Marin's face twisted with rage. You dare. I said yield. I let my blade drop to my side. You're beaten. You know it. Everyone here knows it. I could kill you, but I won't, because your death serves no purpose. I'm not here to prove I'm stronger than you. I'm here to prove that I'm worthy of her. I turned my back on him, the ultimate insult in Valorian combat, and faced the assembled houses. You want to know what a human is worth? I said, we're not the strongest species in this galaxy. We're not the smartest, or the oldest, or the most powerful. Our world is gone, our people scattered. By every measure your civilization uses, we're nothing. I looked at Seraphus, sitting motionless on her throne, her golden eyes fixed on mine. But we know something that I think you've forgotten. We know that worth isn't measured in credits or combat prowess or political standing. It's measured in the choices we make when everything has been taken from us. It's measured in the courage to love even when love means risking everything. I dropped my blade entirely and spread my arms, defenseless before a chamber full of beings who hated me. I love your Empress. Not because she's powerful, not because she can protect me or provide for me. I love her because she's brave and lonely, and kind underneath all the armor she's been forced to wear. I love her because she saw me when no one else would look. And if that means dying here today, then at least I'll die having known something real. The silence stretched for an eternity. Then Counselor Vera stood, his old voice carrying clearly through the chamber. I invoke the doctrine of witness truth, he said. The human has proven himself not through victory, but through honor. By the ancient laws, his claim is valid. One by one, the other houses rose. Lady Sireth, Lord Veth, a dozen others whose names I barely knew. They rose not in enthusiasm, but in acknowledgement. Whatever they thought of me, I had met their standard. Marin screamed and charged at my unprotected back, his blade raised for a killing blow. He never reached me. Seraphis was there, moving faster than I had ever seen her move, her own honor blade catching his with a clash that echoed through the chamber. She drove him back with 3 precise strikes, disarmed him on the 4th, and left him sprawled at her feet. "You have attacked a claimant under the protection of witness truth," she said, her voice cold and terrible. "The penalty is exile. Collect your household and leave my domain. If I see your face again, I will kill you myself." She turned to face the assembled houses, her blade still drawn, her eyes blazing. "Does anyone else wish to challenge?" No one spoke. The gardens of the Imperial Citadel were said to contain plants from every world in the Dominion, a living testament to Valorian reach and power. But tonight, surrounded by bioluminescent flowers and artificial moonlight, they felt simply peaceful. A place apart from politics and trials and the weight of empires. Seraphis walked beside me along paths of crushed crystal, her formal robes replaced by a simple gown that matched the deep blue she had worn on the shuttle so long ago. "The 3rd declaration will take place tomorrow," she said. "The houses have accepted it, formally at least, and informally, they are adjusting their calculations." She smiled slightly. "You have become a factor they did not anticipate. A human who cannot be bought, threatened, or killed easily. It confuses them. I aim to confuse." She laughed. Her real laugh, not the careful, measured sound she used in public. I had learned to distinguish between them over the past months. This one was rare. This one was precious. "Marcus." She stopped walking and turned to face me. "After tomorrow, you will be my formally acknowledged consort. You will have status, protection, authority. You will be second only to me in the entire Dominion. I don't care about any of that. I know." She reached up, and for the first time since that moment on the shuttle, touched my face. Her cool fingers traced the line of my jaw, and I felt something crack open in my chest, the last wall I had built around myself after Earth fell. "What do you care about?" she asked. "You." The word came out rough, broken. "Just you. For 3 months I've watched you carry this empire alone. I've seen how tired you are when you think no one's looking. I've heard you cry out in your sleep, calling for Kalen. And I've wished. My voice failed me. Wished what? That I could take some of it from you. The weight. The loneliness. I know I can't replace what you lost. I wouldn't try. But maybe." I took a breath. "Maybe you don't have to carry it alone anymore." Her golden eyes were bright with unshed tears. "You strange creature. You impossible, stubborn, beautiful creature. I don't know if beautiful is the right word." She kissed me. It was not a human kiss, not exactly. Valorians exchanged breath as much as touch, a mingling of essence that meant something far deeper than physical contact. I felt her sorrow and her hope, her fear and her fierce, burning love, pouring into me like light into darkness. When we finally parted, she rested her forehead against mine, her silver skin warm where it touched my human flesh. "I was dead before you came," she whispered. "I was ruling an empire and slowly dying inside, and I had accepted that this was simply my fate. But you looked at me like I was still alive, like I was worth knowing, worth loving. You are. As are you, Marcus Cole. As are you." We stood together in the garden, surrounded by the light of 1,000 alien flowers, and I understood finally what I had gained from losing everything. I had gained her. The 3rd declaration took place at noon the following day, before the full assembly of the Valorian court. I stood beside Seraphis on the imperial dais, wearing formal robes that had been hastily tailored to fit a human frame, and listened as she spoke the ancient words that would bind us together. "Before all gathered witnesses, I declare this man my chosen partner. Where I go, he shall go. What I bear, he shall share. My honor is his honor. My house is his house. My heart." Her voice caught for just a moment. "My heart is his heart. From this day until the stars grow cold." The assembled nobles responded with the traditional phrases, and just like that, it was done. The former slave, the human refugee, the last survivor of a dead world, was now the imperial consort of the Valorian Dominion. The celebration lasted for hours, but finally we escaped to her private chambers, our private chambers now. The door sealed behind us, cutting off the noise and the politics and the endless demands of empire. "Well," I said, leaning against the wall and trying to process everything that had happened. "That's done then. That's done." Seraphis moved to the window, looking out at the stars. "Though I suspect our challenges are only beginning. The houses will test you constantly. They will look for any sign of weakness, any excuse to invalidate our union. Let them try. She turned back to me, and there was something in her expression that I hadn't seen before. A lightness, as if some of the weight had lifted from her shoulders. You know, she said, when I paid 3 billion credits for you, the entire galaxy thought I had lost my mind. Had you, perhaps? She walked toward me slowly. Or perhaps I was the only one who was truly sane. Everyone else saw a worthless human. I saw the man who would remind me what it meant to be alive. I met her in the middle of the room, taking her hands in mine. Her skin was cool, her fingers longer than a human's, but they fit perfectly against my palms. For 3 credits, I said. They would have worked me to death in a mining asteroid. I would have lasted a month, maybe less. Instead, I'm here. With you. The universe has a strange sense of poetry. It does. I lifted her hand to my lips and kissed her knuckles, a human gesture that I had taught her. One that made her breath catch every time. 3 credits, or 3 billion. It doesn't matter. I would have found my way to you somehow. I have to believe that. Why? Because otherwise, everything that happened, Earth, my crew, all of it, would just be meaningless tragedy. But if it led me here, to you, then maybe there was a purpose. Maybe there was a reason I survived when so many others didn't. Seraphis pulled me close, wrapping her arms around me in an embrace that felt like coming home. Then let us make it meaningful, she whispered against my hair. Let us build something together. Not just a marriage, not just a political alliance, but a bridge between your people and mine. Between what was lost and what might yet be found. I held her tighter, this impossible woman who had seen value in someone the entire galaxy had discarded. She had paid 3 billion credits for a worthless human, and in doing so she had given me back something I thought I had lost forever. She had given me hope. Outside the window, the stars blazed in their eternal patterns, indifferent to the small dramas of mortal creatures. But here, in this room, 2 wounded souls had found each other across the vast emptiness of space. And that, perhaps, was worth more than any amount of credits. That was worth everything.